Got my trout all cleaned up. I'm gonna make a friction fire and cook him up. Raina would like to have a few pieces of it. Wouldn't you, Poppy? So I try to stay away from stuff like this because it's been in contact with the ground. But if it's sticking up off the ground like this, then and it snaps easy, then probably that's okay. Like that, that's good. Good fire starting stuff, even if it's wet outside. For the most part though, this is what I'm after, dead standing twigs that snap off easily. I've started fires in a downpour just by paying attention to what I'm gathering. A big pile of twigs, lots of twigs. Big pile of twigs, a big fat ember. You want to set yourself up for success, especially if it's a friction fire, and even more so if your life is dependent on it. Don't waste your energy sawing things if you can break it. Just step on it and pull up. That takes a lot less energy, burns a lot less calories than working a saw. Split this stuff up to get to the dry stuff inside, and it's pretty small, so this is the safest way to do it with a hatchet anyway. Just hold it like that, and then at the same time I'm gonna hit them like that. That exposes all the dry goodness on the inside. So today's Bowdrill combo is going to be a little awkward. It's going to be a mix of things, primitive and modern. So this time around, I'm going to focus a little bit more on body posture and why that's important when you're trying to start a Bowdrill fire. The Yucca Fireboard, I already got the notch cut in, I've already done the burn in. And your ember catch, it doesn't really matter what it is, as long as you can safely move your ember to your tinder bundle. For the bearing block, we got a Bones 54mm hard compound skateboard wheel with a bearing in it. The Bowdrill should be the length from your armpit to the tip of your fingers. Okay, so where to start? So you're probably going to start with your burn in. After you've got your kit put together. I like to make sure that the arch of my foot is about 2 inches away from where the spindle is going to come in contact with the fireboard. And one thing I see a lot of people doing when they start is they're sitting on their foot, they're sitting on their ankle, and you don't want to do that. That's going to put you hunched over, and you're not over top of the bearing block, you're not over top of the spindle. This line is important. I like to make sure that my head is over top of it, and a lot of my upper body weight is able to hold the pressure down on that spindle so it's not moving around, and so I'm not jerking myself back and forth, because if you're trying to hold everything together with your arm, it's going to be moving around a lot. So the more mass of your body you can get over top of it, the better. So first thing you want to do is bring this leg behind this ankle, almost in a straight line. That's what I like to imagine, because I want to give myself enough room for my Bowdrill to go all the way forwards and all the way back without running into anything. I've seen some people do it like this. That's not really going to give you the natural motion that you're looking for when you're pumping a Bowdrill. So with your back leg out of the way and in line with this, you can now, and your arch of your foot being closer to the spot on the fireboard where you're bearing down, that's going to give you the ability to wrap your elbow pit, this part of your arm, around your knee, and you're going to lock that in, and then you can bring this part of your arm down and allow this part of your wrist to rest on your shin. And your spindle length is also going to affect the geometry of your body position. So it just takes a lot of practice to figure out what you like for your body type. The same spindle length is not going to work for every single person, especially children. They're smaller than we are, and they just don't have the same abilities we do either. So another thing, if you got a lot of flappy stuff on, either zip your coat up or take it off. Get your neck knife off, get that out of the way. If you've got on a hoodie, tuck in the strings. Your shoestrings, get those out of the way. All right, and I'm gonna just go over a real quick spindle length check and make sure my body is gonna be locked in the right position. That feels good to me. I've got the mass of my head and my upper chest over top of the spindle. That's going to give me more control over this. And locking in with my leg is also going to give me more control and stability. So let's get this fire going. Again, you want to start out slow and work that pile of dust up. I really like the skateboard wheel. Take it slow, don't get too excited. You want to make sure you got that dust going. Also, another thing to consider is how close is your string to your bearing block. The closer your string is to your bearing block, the less it's going to want to snatch your arm around. And I've got a fair amount of dust. Probably already have an ember, but I'm just going to keep going to ensure that we do. And be careful with this part. There's no hurry. I can see smoke, so that means we have an ember. Don't hold your tinder bundle so tight that it can't breathe. You'll get a lot of smoke and no flame. You want to make sure there's some air gaps in there. If you hold the tinder bundle above your head, you won't get a bunch of smoke in your face. All right, now we have some twigs set. You don't want to just go pile stuff on it. It'll smother it out. So crisscross your sticks back and forth so that it leaves a lot of air gap. Just be patient with it. If you get impatient and you start piling stuff up here, it's going to smother it. Once you get something like this established, don't try moving it around. If you see the fire wants to go to a certain place, then stimulate that area of the fire. Just slowly stacking up sort of a teepee formation around it. Teepee formations burn very hot, very fast. So that's an excellent way to get a base layer of coals going. But if you arrange your campfire that way, expect to be feeding it a lot of wood, because it's going to consume that wood rapidly. So now that we've got a well-established twig fire, you can start adding the split stuff. It's a little bit bigger, maybe a little bigger than my thumb. And then after this burns for just a minute, you can add pretty much anything to it, as long as it's not like a huge log. That would probably smash it and ruin the airflow and all that jazz. This is a piece of smilax vine. It was huge, and I harvested this 10-inch section to try to make a spindle with it. And we're gonna see if we can make fire with that in one of these videos. So now that we've got our fire going, I'm gonna harvest some green stuff to make our little fish grill. Some plants, like jack pine for example, are serotinous. And serotiny is when a plant has adapted to using fire to open its seeds. So the jack pine kind of depends on forest fires to drop its seeds. Many coniferous trees are serotinous, and what that means is their root system is also well adapted to deal with that high temperature and even a raging fire on the forest floor. So a pine tree like that one, you could dig around and find some of the roots, and you can use those roots for a binding. When you're making this little fish grill or anything to cook on the fire with, leave the bark on, because the bark traps moisture, and the more moisture that's contained in it, it's gonna be less likely to catch on fire. I want a pretty thick stalk. I've already got a point on this from the way that I cut it. This end is gonna get jammed into the ground, and we're gonna cut it off. I like to make it about 2.5 feet. All right, and then what we're gonna do, we're gonna go straight down this, and we're gonna split it. It's started splitting unevenly. Sometimes you can pull the bigger part gently and it'll even the split back up. Let's see if we can do it. Yeah, there we go. So that's the stalk. Now we need some cross members. Nice speckled trout. Yeah, you want some of that, don't you? It ain't even cooked yet. So what I like to do is I'm going to cut along the spine on both sides and sort of unfold this fish and flatten it out. Now I'm going to sharpen one of these, and I'm going to insert it in here to keep that spread apart like that. These grapevine roots are pretty flexible, but if you try to put a hard knot in it, it's probably going to break. Probably my favorite cordage to use for any projects like this is yucca, and it's plentiful in this area. So block it with your finger, wrap your finger, come all the way around, and then go through this hole. And that's a softer knot. This is still breaking. That should hold. And you should end up with something like that. And then you're just gonna jam it in the ground. Something like that. I have some herbs de Provence and chili rosemary to season it. This was given to me in a little gift kit. I love herbs de Provence on fish. You also want to try to avoid cooking your fish or food, period, directly over the fire. You want to use the radiant heat from it. So the grapevine roots weren't holding up too well, so I had to reinforce it, and I used a little bit of yucca. And you don't even have to process yucca. You could just start at the tip and tear a strip off. And this is very strong, and you can tie a pretty hard knot in this and it won't break. I mean, yeah. Oh my goodness, that is so good. I can't wait to dig into this. I love speckled trout. Something about cooking stuff on a fire, I feel like it connects us with our ancestors. It feels good to my soul. I don't care what time of the year it is. I try to get outside pretty often and cook something on a fire. Yes, sir. So I'm not even going to touch the other side of the fish. I'm just going to pick the meat off. So I don't really waste any time scaling it. If I was in a survival situation, I would be trying to eat the skin. So I definitely would spend the time cleaning it completely, getting all the scales off and everything. Because there's a lot of nutrition, a lot of oils and fat and stuff in the skin. This is awesome. Herbs de Provence, a little bit of chili rosemary. Okay, well, we talked about body posture with a friction fire and a simple way to cook a fish. This is Southwoods Outdoor Adventure. My name's Jonathan. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.